Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I didn't open that right. Let me open that better. Let's start that over. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, live for you guys and gals once again. Let's try to have some fun in this one today. Let's have some fun, but you guys better keep it respectful, or I will ban the holy fuck out of you without saying a second word. No hesitation. Drop that bad hammer. All right, but let's have some fun. I didn't get one of these in yesterday. I was chilling with one of my bros. We were jamming, playing some music. All right. So, didn't do a live. How you doing, Benny? Good afternoon to you too, brother. Also, if you guys would click those likes as you roll in here, let's get some engagements. And see if we can get some topics and some questions going. Does strength equal size or vice versa? Let me state this very clearly, Nick, so that there can be no physiological or scientific disagreement. Size raises your strength ceiling. How does that sound? Okay. In other words, and this is not a controversial statement scientifically, the data is fucking overwhelming showing this. All right. The larger a contractile fiber is, again, hypertrophy, the more force production it has. So the bigger you are, the higher your strength potential. Okay. And that pretty much sums it up. If IGF-1 grows everything with limiting LR3 to training days only lower the total net organ growth over time, Kratos, we don't actually have solid proof that IGF-1 actually grows organs, right? We don't actually have proof of that because if we did, then some of these bodybuilders who died young, they would note on the autopsies that they had larger intestines and things like that, right? They just don't. So, I mean, the problem is it's an interesting hypothesis you have, but, and I've heard other people suggest that, but it's working off of something that may not actually be true that we don't really have evidence for. And I would say once you start messing with IGF-1, particularly things like LR3, you better really know what you're doing, though. Like, you better be pretty hardcore at that point. That's up there another tier above using anabolics. Do you think cooking is a skill? Yes, it's like has a 1 to 100 rating in most video games. Hey, Jason, is it still really hot in Texas? Bradley, all you got to do is go to Google weather and you will have the answer to that. The answer is not just yes, but hell yes. Okay. Waiting for this overhyped hurricane in San Diego. Is it overhyped? It sounded like it was supposed to be pretty bad, man. Is an axle bar different grip strength than a barbell? I saw your question earlier, PS5. It's not a different grip strength. It's just harder. It is just much, much more difficult. It's not like it trains different muscles in the hands. But I believe from your post, it was that you had done axle bar deadlift. You got up to a certain level. You quit doing it. Your normal deadlift went up 30 pounds. But then when you tested your axle bar, it was weaker. No, your grip got weaker because you weren't doing the axle bar deadlifts anymore. Okay. And it really is that simple. You were not doing the harder grip exercise, and therefore your grip regressed, even though your glutes and hamstrings and everything else probably got stronger. I mean, it really is that simple. Good afternoon, Blaha. Why would the JM presses hurt my left elbow but feel fine on the right? Because guess what? Overuse and inflammation and fatigue on the body isn't always balanced right to left. That's literally the only reason. It's just not always balanced, and that's okay, right? Even if the load was identical, maybe your tendons are slightly stronger on your right side. So they're going to need another couple of weeks before they start hurting. Makes sense. If someone is purely focused on strength, would they still get bigger? If they're purely focused on strength, they should be trying to actively get bigger. So that question doesn't make sense. Or do you mean, all right, so you saying, will someone get bigger if they do nothing but 1 rep maxes? They'll probably lose size if they were already big. If that's all they do from day one, they'll grow hypertrophy more constant. It'll be much slower. Those, for example, I don't know that we have direct evidence of this. It continues to grow for life in humans anyways. Would you agree that consuming pornography, I don't know that there's good nutritional value to pornography. There's definitely evidence of porn addiction being a net negative. And, I don't want to make a sweeping statement, even though I have a lot of friends who would agree with that statement. I'm not sure that it's automatically by default the case, but we do know for a fact that pornography addiction is a real problem. It can be catastrophic. Coach grinding even on Sundays, mad respect. I work every day, man. Jason Blaha equals 99 charisma. No, man, on the D&D scale that usually used to go 3 to 18 was your charts, man. Although, like in 5th edition, it starts pushing way up past 20. But I mean, even then, a 20 charisma is cray-cray. 1 gram of protein per pound, a good idea to improve body composition while cutting. Are you asking me what the ideal number is, or if that puts you well into the safe range? So it's a good idea, but it doesn't mean that it's your ideal. Anything at 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight or higher should cause as much muscle retention as you're likely to get. No, I've not heard about the 5th quad muscle. Any tips for a rich guy who wants to become a sugar daddy? What's the difference between top bodybuilder stacks and top powerlifter stacks? Kian, I don't know that we can narrow it down because the stacks are so dramatically different. Different high-level powerlifters I've talked to, their stacks look nothing alike. So do you see the problem with the question? Because there is no standard for either one. Again, I have literally seen ultra high level world level powerlifters who their drug stacks do not even resemble each other's. And even when we point out, well, the bodybuilders probably use more these days, it doesn't seem to be the case on the anabolics. It's just with other ancillaries. So bodybuilders tend to do more ancillary type stuff added in. Just as a general rule, but outside of that, I don't know that there's that much difference other than more aromatase inhibitors, more insulin, things like that for bodybuilders. Coach, I managed to get a lifetime bench 1 rep PR at 54 years of age just because I have been training along lousy my entire life. You probably are just training a little better as you've gotten older, and that's okay. Coach, that's going to depend on what's causing. You're going to need to go start Googling for 15 different answers. Sorry, man. It really depends on what's going on as to what's causing the cramps. Seeing your recommendations on various foods about slow bulk 1 to 2 pounds a month over long term. For those average BMI, brand new to lifting, with this recommended bulking any faster to start? Probably not. No. At what age do you think your list will start to regress due to age? I don't want to pick a number, Darko, because then I will make it happen. In other words, if you decide right now for you personally that at the age of 36.2, right, that your lifts are going to start regressing, I almost guarantee you they will start regressing the day you turn 36.2 years old, because you've now programmed your brain for that. So I'm going to go with 157, which I will not live that long. So that works beautifully. What's the best way to determine your training is getting you thicker? You don't know if you're getting thicker? Well, you could use objective metrics in your training itself. Are you progressively overloading? Then you're getting thicker. It's a good general rule. Like if you're seeing your strength go up or your strength volume go up or capacity go up, you're probably getting thicker. Also, I was focused on barbell lifts for bench press. I got stronger, but dumbbell got weaker, but I haven't trained dumbbells in 8 months. And if I go barbell bench, that's a too complicated of a question. Is the live stream lapsing for anybody else? Man, it does that sometimes, Colin. It just does, man. It can pause and speed back up. It could be my connection. It could be your connection. Who knows? For any type of row movements, what are you going to do? Are you going to row like this? I mean, that just would turn into a deadlift. That would turn into a funky deadlift if you don't retract your shoulders back, right? Are you just going to leave them all the way forward? Well, your lats aren't going to work, dude. A girl on Tinder says she wants to toss my salad. Should I let her? I feel weird about it. You know what, dude? If you're comfortable with it, do whatever you want to do, man, if you're both comfortable. But here's the thing, man. If you feel weird about something and you're not cool doing it, then don't do it. See how easy that is? Was there any period in your time after your 20s when, Darko, I'm not going to discuss that. Okay. All right. I'm not going to discuss all of that in detail. To be honest, that's not really even anybody's business. The answer is yes, but I don't feel like discussing it. How's that for an answer? Okay. Jason, you were correct. Partly thanks to you, my training is much better now. And that matters. Yeah, that matters. Yeah, I guess it's Wi-Fi could be doing that, but I'm not on Wi-Fi. So it wouldn't be Wi-Fi. I'm hardlined in. So my desktop is a hardline. I can turn the Wi-Fi off and it stays the same. Is wide grip bench good for targeting chest, or is it better with a narrower grip? You'll get the most pectoral activation when you're in the position to where your wrists are the most stacked. Right? Marco, whatever puts your wrist the most stacked will give you the most stretch at the bottom. Therefore, you'll get the most pectoral activation. Right? So it's not a question of wider or narrower. It's a question of deeper. Okay? In this case, it's length versus girth. In this case, the length is better. You need to be deeper. Because if it just automatically got wider and wider, then we'd all be trying to bench press with our hands all the way on the plates, all the way to the edge of the collars to build a bigger chest. But your chest will get less and less activation. Are there any high protein cereal you like to fill in breakfast? Not really. Early 20s? I'm not sure. Early 20s. I don't remember the exact year I started using gear. But it might not have been actually early 20s. Right? I can tell you my very first class was Sust and Deca. That was my very first go. My barbell bench went up if I go back to the. All right, I'm not going to read all that complexity again. Jason, you continue to do squats, deadlifts, good morning setup with an erector strain one side. I don't know what's going on with your strain. I would be very careful while it heals, right? Maybe just keep all those things to real light weights. But I don't know the severity of your strain, man. I don't know what's going on with your training. Train around pain, not through it. What about those bars on the bench press that have a sort of dip in the middle, cambered bar? Yeah, I have a few different types of those. All right. When you stopped being drug-free, how did you change? Darko, I literally don't remember. Darko, let's go back, man. I know that you paid for a membership. But what did I tell you guys? If you guys start asking me questions requiring me to remember things about my training or fitness more than 20 years ago, didn't I say I'm going to start banning people for that? I'm too old to remember shit that happened 27 years ago in exact detail. All right? I mean, seriously, dude, come on. I don't know, man. What'd you do 27 years ago on this exact day? What was your mindset? Go check your journal. Hi, Coach. What would mid-40s Jason tell 20-year-old Jason about training? You have limits. You can't train with endless volume. You can't train with endless maxes. It's going to injure you. Stop. Recovery matters. You can't do heavy deadlifts at 600 pounds 5 days a week. That's what I would tell my younger self back in my 20s. Lars, I've done long, detailed videos explaining that. Mainly I wanted to raise my strength potential. That's why I went to a wider grip. Any new bars you would consider purchasing? No, I have bars I probably need to get rid of. Are a lot of self-proclaimed evidence-based people not really evidence-based because most of them don't have any better results? No, they don't. Well, they're not evidence-based. My friend Alex Leaf, he likes to call them evidence-informed, not evidence-based, meaning they've read some studies. For thickness, you would look at progressive overload instead of the thickness. Yeah, because, John, your measurements are fleeting. Measurements can change based upon hydration status for the day and how many electrolytes you had yesterday. It would cost you tens of thousands of dollars to actually track that with equipment. Like, it would be extremely expensive because you would have to get every muscle MRI'd on a weekly basis in a lab by a technician who knows what they're doing. Measurements are almost meaningless in terms of the ability to track anything, unless you're talking about over years and years and years. Coach, a friend of mine believes that saying the name of a lift while he does it helps his gains. He says squat when he goes down. Why would you think that would work, Red Coat? Jason, do you like Swiss bar bench? Not really. I find it awkward to balance. I have 3 different Swiss bars. Casing, Michael Hooper video. Yes, some of them don't do those. But so what? Because a few of them don't do it doesn't mean that it's a good idea. We ever grow a Viking beard, I don't think my psoriasis will ever let me do that. So you can't measure your legs. John, I'm telling you that you're not going to get an accurate enough measurement. Like, that's not going to tell you if you made gains over the last 4 weeks. It's just really not. Sorry, it's just not. But you can look at your workloads on your exercises and know if fibers have probably hypertrophied or not. CFC, don't bring up Megan stupid stuff, dude. I clowned Megan a decade ago. Just stop. Nucleus overload. Just the name alone is so pretentious for something not based on any real science. And how would you define nucleus overload? Wouldn't that be anything that makes you grow? Hey, Jason, if I fail on the first set of bench in your novice 2.0 program, should I reset the weight back to the last 2 sets or only the next workout? I mean, go ahead and see what you can do on the next 2 sets. Is dumbbell bench there's a different movement pattern, there's a different learning curve. So yes, neuromuscularly, there's a difference. I mean, there is some skill to that. But you should never be stronger. Like, okay, PS5, let me put it this way. If we walked into a gym and you say you had only dumbbell benched correctly, like the full range of motion for the past year, and I put you on a barbell bench in 1 session, I should have your barbell bench stronger. The only exception would be if you've been half repping the dumbbells, right? When will we see Michelle bench 200 pounds? When? I don't know. It will happen when it happens. How's that for an answer? I mean, I don't know how you expect me to predict something like that. Have you identified any particular triggers for psoriasis? Yeah, letting my hair grow out anywhere. I mean, there's other various triggers for me, but I'm not going to discuss the specifics of my individual environmental triggers for psoriasis in a live stream. That's like really nobody's business. Thoughts on choosing a rep, for example, 3 to 5. I don't know that I would start to 3 and go up. I would never program that way. CFC, you should check out my channel and how I actually program and recommend people program and how I do for myself. I think that will be eye-opening for you based upon the question you just asked. Thanks, Coach. So if your chest and triceps are getting less thick, that means you're losing reps. Yeah, you should be losing strength. It's pretty straightforward, right? Muscular atrophy should cause you to lose strength on your actual rep work. Is it better to do mostly 10s on volume work on bench, or would it be better to rotate rep ranges? Marco, I program most of my people to stay into the rep range, meaning we do heavy work or speed work, then they do rep work. I mean, occasionally I will myself experiment a little with adjusting reps, but I'm not adjusting it for the rep range. I'm just adjusting the weight, meaning when let's say I go over from the 245. When I put 245 on, it's not necessarily because I'm trying to do exactly 10s. It's because oftentimes I end up at around 9 to 11 reps with that weight if I do it after my heavy benching, right? When I go to 275, I just wanted to bench a little heavier. Whether it hit 6, 7, or 8 was not necessarily my intention. But even then, even if I stay at roughly 8 to 12 or something, I'm still close to 10. And I do think that's better overall for balancing things, right? So I generally recommend, for most of your supplemental work to stay in that range, unless you kind of are just doing some stuff different. Sometimes our tendons feel a little better if we take reps up. Sometimes our strength feels a little more solid if we go down to like 8 instead of 10. But overall, I generally recommend people keep their work around there, and maybe some of their single joint stuff can go a bit heavier. But again, it's just dependent on what you're doing. Right. What's the most serious injury you've seen lifters get often? Bicep tears are definitely number one. Thanks, Coach. Based on the logic on thickness, is it fair? Yeah, John, I probably have lost a little bit, right? And I think it's just due to the heat and the recovery, all of that stuff. So I probably have lost a tiny amount. And I don't think that's unreasonable to assume, right? Because if you go look at when I did 315 for 8, I was also able to do 255 for 10 as back off work. I was also hit like 255 on the incline bench for 5 reps. Maybe my pecs have lost just a tiny amount of muscle. Hey, Coach, does getting stronger when cutting indicate muscle growth? Potentially. Do you take a multivitamin? No, I don't believe in multivitamins. Alan, I'm not interested in taking people's random advice from the internet on my psoriasis. And fair enough, which is why I don't want to discuss it, because then people are going to offer advice. And I'm just really not interested. When a power lifter neglects bicep training, they're much more prone to bicep tears. No, I don't think so. Because most bicep injuries occur doing curls anyways. Ask orthopedic surgeons. A lot of power lifters tear their biceps on curls. And the reason is because they're trying to train like a power lifter when they attack the curls. Would doing bicep training the day before deadlift increase a bicep tear if doing mixed grip? Jake, that's really subject to a lot of debate. I guess it would really depend on what you did. Did you push stuff too far? Did you inflame the tendon? Maybe. But here's the thing, you will reduce your risk by not being jerky on the deadlift. Quit jerking it off the floor and pull it with the slack out. That alone will dramatically lower it. Because even overhand with straps, I just saw a guy yesterday or today in my feed, strong guy, tear his bicep, double overhand with straps. Tore his bicep. But he jerked that shit. People who use straps have a bad habit against that. Really, I've never heard of a tear. CFC, no, it's really common. Go contact an orthopedic surgeon who repairs biceps and ask them how many of them they repair for curls versus deadlifts. It's going to be like 20 to 1. When is the Mike Minzer? Whenever. I filmed it, dude, but I'm like 50, 60 videos ahead, maybe more. It's in the rotation, though. I made 5 videos this morning just on different, formative topics. Thoughts on L-glutamine for leaky gut? That might be the only real benefit to it. Taurine helps also for that. CFC, I've done a lot of videos on that. Preacher curls probably have the highest injury risk, like in terms of people who've been hurt doing them that I know of. Why do some people claim to get muscle imbalancing from mixed grip and others do not? Because it's probably not that big of a deal. Thoughts on meditation and deep breathing exercises for stress management? Yeah, they can be helpful. Is slightly faster, finer rep sign of progress, even if I didn't increase weight or reps? For example, I don't hit a PR reps, but weight, well, let's say the final rep is slightly less grinding. Yeah, I mean, that would indicate some progress. If you're someone who grinds on those lifts, I have lifts that you can't even tell when I hit failure almost. Like my reps before failure look the same. So it depends on the exercise. But you can tell, like when it feels slower, like But in that case, yeah, I mean, that's a sign of progress. Jason, at what weight would you say a man can say he is legitimately big? I don't think it works that way. Out of the 3 there are no compound movements. And here's the thing we're going to come to. I guess frequency of use is going to be the biggest thing. So any lift that is really, 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 really popular that more people do is obviously going to cause more injuries, Casey. Should I swap my mixed grip and warming up? No. Why would you warm up with a different technique than you max on? I'll be honest with you. I don't really warm up on deadlifts. I do like one set. Sorry, let me rephrase. I do like 1 rep to warm up. So example, let's say I'm going to do 545 for as many reps as I can without bone breaking down. I usually do 1 rep of 405. That's my whole warm up. I don't want to double overhand that. If I come back to dumbbells, should I be surprised if I'm weaker even though my bench training? It depends on how long you took away from 1PS. Do you think scientists would agree rep work is a more objective measurement than muscle size when measuring the size of a muscle? No, John, they wouldn't. But you don't have the ability to actually measure the muscle. An external measurement with a tape measure, your hydration status is a bigger variable in the change in measurement. Human error is a bigger variable in the change in measurement than even gaining a pound of muscle would be. You see the problem? You don't have a means to measure it directly. Our technology is not at the level to where when you wake up in the morning, a scanner scans your whole body and tells you the exact number of grams of lean tissue in your left bicep. We're not at that technology level. How does the band work? Strengthens a tendon, blood flow, and what a weirdo. All right. Blood flow and micro trauma to the tendons. There's an adaptive response to that fast eccentric overloading, but it is causing micro tears in the tendon, which will then cause it to hypertrophy, in theory. I'm not going to discuss border and border laws and everything, Ken. This is a fitness channel. What is your main protein source? You still eat a lot of steak. Greek yogurt, chicken are probably the majority. Hi, Jason. Do you think sticking between 5 and 10 reps on big lifts is a good idea for BJJ athletes who wants to get strong? No, because I prescribe conjugate for most of my fighters. So you're going to be doing 2 and 3 for speed work, and you're going to be doing heavy singles still. So the answer is objectively no in that case. Is the Ohio Power Bar a good bar for deadlifts and squats? Yeah, I like the Texas bars better, but the Ohio bars are pretty good. I do have some Ohio bars. I just like my Texas bars better. As someone who's owned both, you see what I'm saying? I do favor the Texas bars, and it's not because I'm from Texas. Should I have a belt on and brace for all my warm-up sets if I'm going to do for a warm-up on? Yes, I do. I put on a belt for my very first rep for a squat or a deadlift, me personally. Thoughts on Women's World Cup? I don't have any thoughts on it. Do you think I should run your off-season? No, I don't. If you want to run a linear periodization program, you can, but I'm not a big fan of linear periodization. Do any of your clients compete in powerlifting? Obviously, yes. Is there any scientific evidence about the high rep band work strengthening tendons, or if I only anecdotally? I don't know if there's any scientific evidence confirming it in a lab, Marco. Do you ever play Pokemon? I don't even know anyone who's ever played Pokemon that admitted it to me. Like maybe I do, but it's never come up in conversation. I met a girl on an airplane once who played Pokemon, who she was sitting next to me. She had a big old Pikachu tattooed across her entire arm. So, I realized she played Pokemon, and then she brought up Pokemon when I started just chatting, making small talk. So I have met one person who admitted they played Pokemon to me in my entire life on an airplane. Okay. John, I think you're arguing to the point of absurdity now, and I just don't have time for it. Now, if you want to teach and want good answers, I'll be happy to give them to you, but I'm not entertaining this. Sorry. Does the angle of the bench matter for tricep extension? Maybe, but it's probably minimal. Should the belt be on the tightest setting possible? Absolutely not. You should always be able to put 3 to 4 fingers inside your belt. If you can't, it's too tight. So would you just do heavy singles on max everyday speed work and then accessories for hypertrophy? No, Dan. You do your max effort work, then you do your assistance and accessory work. Speed days are different. Why bodybuilders love Smith machines these days? I have no idea. You'll need to go ask some bodybuilders. I think Mike makes those recommendations because it helps him sell programs. Is muscle and strength pyramid? Eric Helm suggests that 3/4 of your workout should be heavy if you're training for strength. That's blah, blah, blah. No, I disagree with that. Could you be friends with a man who doesn't not exercise? Yeah, I have friends who don't work out. I'm doing beltless deadlifts from my training history. I'm usually 10 pounds stronger with a belt. I guess it depends on the person. For some people, that's about right. If belt, no, it may not carry over as much as you think it will. I'm going vacation next week. The rest of the week is lifting for good, overused training, and coming back stronger from more gains. Take some bands and do some band work. Have you ever recommended 3 weeks or more deload for someone? No, never. Absolutely not. My friend who's a powerlifter deadlifts 2 times a week, bench press and squats 3 times a week, and often does SBD days. Is that bad? I don't agree with that sort of programming. I think that in the long term, it will injure you. Would you consider having a channel on a different site? No, Jake, I don't want to start a whole new channel. Meaning, if I want to discuss non-fitness stuff, I will simply do it. But I'm not interested in other people's non-fitness topics that they always want to bring up. Like if someone wants to show up and ask me about Pokemon, I just don't give a fuck. You see what I mean? But if I want to make something about the guitar, I'll just make it on my main channel because it's something I'm interested in. Right? Makes sense? Because I feel like talking about it, it's an interest of mine. But no, I mean, I don't feel, for example, that I need to make a whole channel dedicated to my psoriasis. When someone has a bicep tear, can they still squat? That's going to depend. Probably not. Not always a normal, regular barbell back squat unless you can get into the position with your sling and everything. Safety bar squats, absolutely. It's usually what a lot of guys have to do. Cool. And didn't I just tell you that I'm not interested? I'm not sure what was so difficult for you to understand. The high rep band work basically fixed my patellar tendon knee issues. Thank you for the recommendations on prehab rehab. Yeah, casing, I find that it can be very effective. That's kind of the issue with those things. Even though we may not have much in the way of studies, we have a hell of a lot of anecdotal evidence showing it, which means it's at least worth investigating. Do you think phases of volume desensitization or by one dramatically reduces their training volume were beneficial? No, I think that's a nonsense concept. I think that they've just excessively overreached and they just need to back down because they've overreached, if that helps at all. I wish YouTube and other platforms from both channels would have different content. They pigeonhole content creators into a single category. Well, no, Colin, a lot of the creators choose to do that because, like I said, I don't want to stand around discussing my psoriasis. You see the point? I'll talk guitar stuff with you guys a little bit because it's an actual interest of mine. Okay, Anon. So now you're just advertising stuff and I told you I wasn't interested. That's called crossing people's boundaries. What's the difference between a deadlift bar and a power bar? The length and the thickness. Is it bad for resting weak for lifting weights for recovery purposes? I think you should at least be active. You shouldn't fully rest. What has made you choose conjugate over systems or philosophies? My experience of that, it works very well, pretty consistently. Would you consider doing neutral grip dumbbell overhead press or neutral grip pull-ups to see? They do irritate my shoulders, Jay. I don't need to check because I've checked. I've tested it every now and then. I've gone and done a single rep on a neutral grip pull-up, knowing I could have done 10 easy, and my shoulder hurt for the next 48 hours off of one rep. All right. Do weak hips cause low back pain? Maybe in some cases. Weak hamstrings can. If deadlift bars aren't used in competition, what's the point of them? They are used in competition. U.S. Grant, I'm not going to be able to assess your ankle sprain and give you medical advice. You should probably talk to a physician. Thoughts on avocado oil? So it's a decent monounsaturated fat. I think it has a pretty low smoke point, right? Yeah, junkie. I've not been super wild with 531 and all that, especially with 5x10s. It's just, I don't think that there's a benefit to the actual 531 sequence, meaning there's nothing magical with picking exactly what's done there. So if that breaks down, then it's kind of like, why do we need to program 531 and just change the assistance work? I could just have people come in and do whatever I want for their top sets. I want to state there's no magic in that 531 3-week sequence other than you're lifting heavy. That's it. I really don't understand how conjugate maximizes strength in comparison to more standard strength programs. Well, Dan, it's an overall balance program. I noticed in your recent squat and deadlift days, you've been loading the belt squat pretty heavy. Well past 200 pounds, you find any hit? No, I don't find any. I dropped it back down though, so that I can get higher reps. I took it down to 200 actually, exactly 200 this last workout. And I want to build it back up from there. Do powerlifters need to pay to join an org like USPA? Yes. Yeah, powerlifting costs money. Right? Powerlifting costs money. Greg's pointed out to Dig, typical conjugate is 80% accessory work. Yep. Hey Jason, what's the best brand for bars? I mean, we could argue all day long about Kabuki, Alico, all of that, and I don't think that those are wrong answers. I like the Texas bars because they're still competition quality and high quality at a mid-range price. That's why I like them. That's why I have 3 of them. Okay. What do you think of strength training twice a week with big efficient lifts and training BJJ every day? Was thinking like SSB, squat, bench, accessory. I mean, you could do that, Dan, or you could run some actual concurrent models or some conjugate. I think you'd be better. What's the point in having 3 I don't have 3 Texas power bars. I have 1 Texas power bar. I have the Texas deadlift bar and the Texas squat bar also. Can full body 2 times a week work for a novice? It can. It's just not quite as well as 3 times. It could still work. I mean, a novice could actually make pretty good gains doing that, to be fair, if it's decently written. Coach, should powerlifting be in the Olympics? Nope. I have no interest in seeing powerlifting in the Olympics, and I think there's a good case for it not being there. You lose the grassroots aspect to the sport, and actually in some countries it would make it illegal, because then you have to be under a governing body, under the oversight of the government. If it becomes an Olympic sport, you can't have a grassroots sport. It becomes illegal in many places, so it's not good for the sport. And they're not going to allow it in the Olympics anyway. They've had enough headaches with weightlifting. The Olympics is not going to, they don't want to put another weightlifting sport in. Do you recommend getting both a power bar and a deadlift bar? I think it could be helpful. I happen to have them. Depends on what you're doing though. Do you think tractor tire flipping is a better exercise than punching a punching bag? Well, I guess that's subject to a great deal of debate. Are you talking overall fitness? Probably, yes. A punching bag is going to make you better at punching, though, more so than flipping the tire will. You know, thoughts on machine-only training for athletes to maximize strength? No, I don't think there's any benefit to machine-only training. I can only do 5 to 6 chin-ups. I'm thinking about doing like 10 sets of 3 in order to boost this. Will that work? I've recommended stuff like that in the past. I don't know that that's really a wise idea. It feels like just a lot of overuse. You get strong on rows and get your biceps stronger. That will carry over. So maybe just do your 3 sets of chins and just build up the muscles. Blah, blah, blah. Dan, I'm not going to go into a whole philosophy of why it conflicts in the history. You can dig into all that and spend the next 1,000 hours of your life digging into all that history, right? Well, how are you going to keep getting stronger without gaining muscle, Dan? You're going to lose fat. See the problem there? You're going to hit a strength ceiling for your hypertrophy. It is going to happen. It's going to happen sooner rather than later. And that mindset that you have is going to try to keep you at a weight class that's probably too small for your height. And then you're going to get mogged by guys 3 inches shorter than you at the same body weight. And they're going to fucking destroy you. should maximize your hypertrophy and compete in an appropriate weight class. Get leaner if you need to. Again, size will raise your strength ceiling. All right, guys, we're at 45 minutes. I think it's about time to wind this down. So I hope it's been informative. Oh, I didn't know that piece of news. I'll check that out later. Somebody linked me that on Facebook. Chuck stopped taking his meds. All right, but I'm going to wind this down. So I hope it's been informative, or at least entertaining. And I will talk to you guys and gals next time.